Season well underway now. I know we spoke a little bit earlier on in the season. How's it going for your club and grassroots football, I suppose? It's nice to be back after what a horrible last season it was.
Yeah, it's good to be back. More normal than what it was last year. We've not started too bad. We've dropped points in games where we'd have expected to win. But it's going better, better than it was this time last year. So we're just looking at it as a positive, really.
You play on a public space, don't you? Tell us about what the pros and cons of that are. Maybe there aren't any pros. I don't know. Maybe there's lots of pros.
In pros, people pass by, people watch, come and watch. Cons are it can be quite an open space. Wind gets up, it's a bit of a bad game to be in. That's about it, really.
I mean, obviously, the fact that anybody can go on there, does that ever leave the surface, uneven or damaged? I mean, I'm very well aware as a crown green bowler of the fact that greens can get damaged by kids playing footy on there. Do you have that type of a problem on the surface that your first team plays on?
You do get the odd, kids going on. I wouldn't say the surface ever gets as damaged. We're obviously wary if we leave the nets out because the kids can pull them down. Foxes can rip the net in. But the kids do go on. We obviously try and keep them off as much as we can because although it is it's a public space, our pitch is a priority and we need to make sure it's kept to their standard because we do try and play football at the end of the day.
On that basis, I assume you have a grounds person then who looks after it, or is that done by public funding as well?
We have a contracted groundsman who comes and cuts it once a week. He marks it, and then every couple of months he'll do a vertidrain on it. We have our own lawnmower which pulls a slitter. That's mainly done every couple of months just to help drainage. But then it's just down to the committee to look after it.
Tell me about the practicalities then of running a club like Denton. I mean, you have obviously people who work full time doing other jobs. What's it like juggling that around and training around that as well?
It does get quite tough. Obviously, lads, some lads will work away, so they can't make training. Then we work on things in training which they miss out on. Comes to a Saturday, you have to go through things, or sometimes the players might miss out because they've not been at training on the Tuesday to work on a certain area. Tiredness, lads working long hours. Sometimes they get to the weekend and they want a break, but they've got football on a Saturday, so they have to get out of bed and then sometimes travel over to the other side of Liverpool, Warrington, Chester. For amateur football, we do some travelling, so there's a lot expected of lads who, like you say, are working full time.
You got midweek fixes, I suppose, that makes it juggling even more difficult, is it?
Yeah, so because we haven't got floodlights, our midweek fixtures, obviously from the beginning of August to end of August, we can play, and then when the clocks go back forward in April time, we can start to play again midweek then. So midweek games are a challenge because a lot of lads working 9 till 5, 9 till half 5. If you're at home, you're quite lucky. If you're away and like I say, you could end up travelling over to Warrington. It's some lads just can't do it. The job doesn't allow. So midweek games are quite a killer. They're out of the way now. We focus on Saturdays, and then hopefully we get enough games in, which mean we don't have to play midweek come April.
Even on a Saturday, I'm well aware of the fact that once we get into the dark months, once it gets into November, December, it's going dark at 4:15, 4:30. Does that become an issue?
Well, we kick off at 2:00, so we don't get to that point where we start worrying about floodlights, lighting and stuff. Cup games go straight to penalties, so there's never really any issues with lighting for us throughout winter.
I suppose the nightmare then is postponements, is it? Because then you've got a backlog of games that have perhaps got to be played later in the year.
Yeah, postponements are the killer, especially with county cup games. We've got one this weekend, so touch wood, it's not postponed. But if it was, then that'll go into next week, so that's another league game which is pushed back. So cup games take priority, which affects your league games. But then obviously postponements of league games means Saturdays are running out, so you end up playing midweek in April.
I'm a bit reluctant to mention the C word, COVID, but how does that affect you? I mean, do your players, we know that at the elite level, players are being tested twice a week or whatever. I'm assuming now that we are where we are in society, that your players don't have to do any testing, or am I wrong on that?
No, lads aren't expected to test. You might get some lads testing for jobs. But unless if they're not doing that, then there's no expectations on them to test every 3-4 days to play football with on a Saturday. Obviously our lads are playing amateur football, so Friday, Saturdays they tend to be out in pubs, clubs and bars and stuff. Whereas your pro footballers aren't really, around normal people like myself.
We're not supposed to be.
Well, not supposed to be. Yeah, they kept in the bubbles, or when they go out to VIP and they don't come into contact with many people. Our lads are amateur footballers that are going out at a weekend, and you don't know what they get up to be fair. So they're around people who could be carrying COVID, but not really had that many issues with it this season. Lads have felt unwell, so they've tested. If they're positive, they've obviously isolated. If they're negative, then they're allowed back into the group to train and play. So yeah, it's not been that much of an issue at the minute. I'm hoping it stays that way.
Remind us of the level you're at now, the division that you're in, and because I'm curious to know sort of how it works, but we need to put that into perspective. So how many divisions are you below professional football, the Football League?
So we're the Cheshire League, we're Division 1. So after the promotion from Division 1, we go into the Prem. That's step 7, and then the next step is 6, which is going into the North West Counties. North West Counties is North and South. Then it's the North West Counties Prem. From the Counties Prem, you'd go into the Northern League, which has the Prem, and then I think it's a East, South, and Midlands or something like that. So you've got another 2 divisions there. If you win the Prem of the Northern League, you go into the Conference North to Conference, and then that's when you'd obviously hit the professional leagues of League 2.
So given the league that you're in, what I'm interested in is, obviously I talked to managers and chairmen and players at different levels. Are your players under any sort of contract to you? Financially, I suppose it'll be relative peanuts, but are they under obligation due to a contract? No contract. Our level, a lot of teams pay subs. They're lucky enough not to pay subs. They get free tracksuits, kits and stuff that they don't, no expense to themselves. So that's how it is. Don't pay subs. So in theory, you don't have to worry about the size of your squad. So if there were problems with either people working who couldn't get to a game, or because of COVID or whatever, you can practically recruit anybody, can you, that you're in contact with?
Yeah, we unless they're contracted to a semi-pro club or a professional club, then they can play for us. Obviously, you still want to try and treat it as professional as we can. Try and keep the same group of players together week in, week out, and not obviously rely on drafting lads in all the time. But like I say, unless you're contracted to semi-pro or pro club, you can play for us.
So here's the killer question: why do you do what you do? Because you obviously do it not for the money, do you?
No, there's no money involved for me. It's more for the for the love of the game. I played from being age of 6. I've played football. Unfortunate enough to snap my cruciate to around 21, and over the years I felt like I'd never recovered fully from it, partly because I didn't look after myself. Got to 27 years of age, I was getting older. The players I was playing against were getting younger, and I just felt like it was my time to step away. The enjoyment from the playing side was coming away from the game for me. But I know for a matter of fact, if it got to a Saturday afternoon I wasn't involved in, somehow I'd slowly lose the will to live. So management was the next step. I was lucky enough to be given the job at Denton after a season elsewhere, and I've never looked back since I've joined the club. They look after me. I try and make them proud of what we're doing. Make sure we get a side out on a Saturday afternoon that they enjoy watching. And not just enjoy watching, and not just a group of lads that are there to play football, a group of lads that care for the club, and want to do well for the old guard, really, the lads that have been involved there for the last 15-20 years. Give them something to be proud of.
This weekend is a perfect opportunity for people who are used to watching Premier League football perhaps to go along to a game, because it's an international break. You've mentioned that you're at home on Saturday, so convince us to come and watch Denton.
Well, Saturday's a make or break, because it's a cup game. County Cup's, I think it's the second round. last time we entered the County Cup was 2 years ago, prior COVID. We got to the final, and luckily we got beat. I think it was 3-1 on the night by a better team. So come down, get behind us. We're looking to obviously go into the quarterfinals with the hopes of eventually making the final and winning it this time. Playing North Wharton, so it's bound to be a good battle, and hopefully a few goals and a good win for us. Bar will be open, there'll be pies. Hopefully the weather's brighter than what it is today. So yeah, there's so much to come down and enjoy. Grassroots football, and a lot of people don't realise that because they're drawn in by the mega bucks at the top.
I came to a game earlier in the season and I can recommend the pies. Perhaps that's the big selling point. But you've obviously got a game. Good luck. Thanks very much for speaking to us. And in terms of finding your ground, I did it by Googling Denton town and looking it up. That's the best way to do it, isn't it? Unless you want to describe where your ground is. Yeah,
well, I can give you the postcode. Tends to be the best thing. So it's M34 6CJ. If you stick that in your sat nav, I'm sure you'll find your way.
Well, good luck, and hopefully get a good win and keep the cup running going, and causes you more problems than with fixtures. But it's the sort of thing you want, isn't it?
Yeah, like I say, we're going okay in the league, but a cup, it gives you a chance to have a break away from the league and to go for something different. And like you say, it does cause congestion with fixtures, but who doesn't love a good cup run?